Hello and welcome. In this, the year of our Lord, 1812, I'm James Quinn, an itinerant Methodist minister and a circuit rider. I crossed over from Pennsylvania in 1799 as a probationer, and I was ordained an elder by Bishop Whatcoat in Baltimore, 1803. The Methodist Church has been part of Ohio history for a long time. When Ohio became a state in 1803, it was part of the Western Conference of the Methodist Episcopal Church. This was a vast region, beginning with the Allegheny Mountains on the east.
Actually, a definition was written down. It said it was bounded by the Aurora Borealis on the north, the Gulf of Mexico on the south, and as far as you could see on the west.
As the population of Ohio grew, circuit riders would follow the people into the area. In fact, membership increased from around 3,000 in 1800 to over 30,000 in 1811.
In 1812, the General Conference meeting in New York City decided to split the Western Conference into the Ohio Conference and the Tennessee Conference. And in the fall of that year then, the first session of the Ohio Methodist Episcopal Conference was held in Chillicothe in a little log cabin, which became and is today the Walnut Street United Methodist Church.
And so we began our meeting on October 1st, 1812, with many prominent Methodists in attendance.
My name is Carol Holliger. I'm the archivist for the Archives of Ohio United Methodism. So this is the actual record of that event, which was held in Chillicothe. And you'll see both Francis Asbury and William McKendry listed as the bishops.
Bishop Francis Asbury, who had come to America from England, was at the conference. Bishop William McKendry, who was the first American-born bishop in the Methodist Episcopal Church, presided at the conference. It appears that the format was not a lot different in terms of the things they did from an annual conference today in terms of receiving reports, ordaining pastors. Obviously, you get into financial reporting at some point or other, just like we do today at annual conferences.
At the meeting, each of us had to give an accounting of our ministry and our finances. As circuit riders, we depend upon collections and donations, and sometimes it's kind of hard to get by.
$80 a year was the annual pastor's salary, and so they would take up a collection at these various places they stopped.
So it was $80 if a person was single pastor, and it was $160 if the person was married. And you can see that in many cases they didn't get what was coming to them.
They were short a lot of times. $80 a year wasn't very much money. Wasn't very much money.
Travel is another difficulty that we face in the ministry. Circuits can be hundreds of miles long, and I remember when I had 28 to 31 preaching places, so that I could be home 2 days in the month, I'd have to double up preaching the week before. But horseback is all we have, and we carry everything we need in our saddlebags.
Discipline, a hymnal, just very few cosmetic type items, early newspapers, that sort of thing, and a New Testament.
Well, the travel was difficult. Asbury at that time was in his late 60s. In the months prior to this conference in October, he had traveled over 4,000 miles, all on horseback. He arrived there very tired. He talks in one place even about begging off from actually sitting through the sessions, and he just wanted to go over and sleep. He was involved also in what they at that time referred to as reading off the stations. So Asbury was called back out from his nap to read off the appointments. The 1812 General Conference in May of that year had authorized the bishops to consult with the presiding elders about the appointment process.
For the first time, the other presiding elders and I had the opportunity to assist the bishop in assigning pastors to their circuits. But not everyone was always pleased. In fact, one really made his objections known to Bishop McKendry.
That was Finley, in fact. That was James B. Finley. Apparently he had family in the West, and he wanted to be appointed to the westernmost part of the conference. it turned out he was appointed over to the east, and he went up to the bishop after it was over and kind of grumbled about that. Said, why did you bother to tell us to let our desires be known if you weren't going to follow them anyhow? I suppose that happens even today, that pastors don't always get assigned to the place that they would like to go. And of course, the goal was to go out and make disciples of Jesus Christ, which is what we're still trying to do in the church today.
It wasn't just church business that we discussed at this meeting. Many tumultuous things are happening in our nation, and we were charged with the responsibility to come up with a way to address the matter of slavery.
The General Conference of 1812 had authorized each annual conference to come up with a statement, if you will, regarding slavery. The statement included these words: "No member of the society shall purchase a slave except in the cases of mercy or humanity to the slave purchased. If any member of our society shall sell a slave except at the request of the slave to prevent separation in families, he shall be excluded from the society." That was a rather progressive statement at that time. This would have been 50 years before the Civil Wars, but it was an issue that had been broiling in the country for some period of time.
America is at war. And before the conference, Bishop McKendry instructed us that as pastors we should give comfort in times of trial.
The War of 1812 was raging at that time, and Ohio was a border state. A lot of the western part of Ohio in particular was a battleground area. McKendry had made a statement admonishing the circuit riders, be sure you minister to the people that are fighting in the war and the people that are affected by the war.
The first session of the Ohio Annual Conference of the Methodist Episcopal Church came to a close on October 7, 1812. It is our hope that what we did there will endure.
The United Methodist Church in Ohio today is still an outgrowth of this first Methodist Episcopal Conference 200 years ago.
The early circuit riders in Ohio were very, very anxious that the history live on after they were gone.
There's great resources here that track an awful lot of this history, both into the development of the annual conferences and the different annual conferences, but also of local church history.
We really exist to help local churches to understand their own church history. I think what was very clear from the readings that we do about the early circuit riders is how much we learn from looking back. We do learn from the mistakes and the successes of our predecessors, and that we don't operate in a vacuum.
You should not be involved in any history of your local church without visiting the archives to find out what's here. You may be surprised at how much information there is here about your local church.